Okay, welcome everyone to video 2 of Construction Sales University's mini training course on use value engineering to put more money on your bottom line and deliver massive value to your client in 3 easy steps. So I guess the concept of value engineering, it's a formula, it's relative. You know, value is directly related to what is the function of the building relative to the cost. So obviously the greater the level of function of the building and the lower the cost, the higher the level of value. And I guess in its simple sense, value engineering is all about increasing that formula. It's giving the client the best possible result for the lowest possible cost, therefore giving him enormous value. And by using a systematic approach, value engineering provides the required function of a project at the lowest possible cost, or in the shortest possible time frame, or to the highest possible quality level, or with the highest, the lowest life cycle cost of the building, whatever the client's key requirements are. And I'm going to show you in a minute how you can really zone in and understand what those requirements are. And it's about keeping the design intent unchanged. So fundamentally, you know, if the client wants a hotel, he gets a hotel, but he just gets it at better value. If he wants a process plant, he gets the materials that he wants to processed but at a much more efficient rate. It's about increasing the value to the client and allowing you to increase your margin, because you've got to get something out of this. The entire point of this training is to really show you step by step how you can deliver massive streams of value to your client, to the stakeholders involved in the project, and put an enormous increase on your bottom line on the table. So how is it going to impact you? Well, it's definitely going to increase your profit margin. I can 1000% promise you that. It will allow you win more work by being more competitive against your competition. It will allow you achieve savings on construction cost. It'll introduce lower life cycle costs, improved operational cost, reduce maintenance costs, and it'll help you identify the risks and risk mitigation strategies. And that isn't some airy-fairy thing. It's really looking at what has the design team specified. Is it suitable for that particular application, and how can you minimize any impact to that project? So I break value engineering down into 3 stages, and I'm going to show you throughout the rest of the modules how you can look at each stage in isolation to develop your value engineering concept. So stage 1 is all the blast. As I mentioned before, it's about identifying the problem, collecting all of the relevant information, and defining the different functions of the building. What must it achieve? What are the requirements of that building? Then it's about getting creative, looking at different alternatives, and you are going to take a massive part in this process. You're going to be one of the primary drivers of the design team, of the specialist team and consultants, to come up with new, unique, lower cost, more efficient ways of delivering that building. And then it's all about refining, taking those best alternatives and implementing them into the building and unlocking that value. So what's important to consider when you're involved in value engineering is the earlier you can do it, the earlier you can get involved, the lower the cost and the greater the impact of that value is going to be. So if you look at this chart on the left hand side, starting at project planning, then conceptual design and approvals, cost planning, detailed design, development, construction, completion and handover. If you're going to introduce a value engineering idea at project planning stage, the impact of that in terms of time or potential disruption or delay to the project because of the introduction of that element is minimal, if not completely nil. Obviously, the more you work through the construction cycle, if you get into the construction phase and you start wanting to change the air conditioning specification, it can have a major impact way over and above the cost saving or time saving that might be introduced by that specific element in isolation. So what's great about this process is if you can get involved early, if you can, through your sales and business development process, which we talk about extensively in Construction Sales University, positioning you as a key consultant to the client, where they're involving you earlier and earlier in their design process, where you're essentially becoming part of their design team. That's when you can unlock this value at maximum impact and deliver massive streams of value and find yourself negotiating project after project. But even if you get in at cost planning or even detailed design development, you can still have a massive impact. Because I know a lot of you watching this are going to think, well, we tender projects and then we come in and it's already designed and it's got its building permits and he's ready to go. That absolutely doesn't restrict you from having massive impact in how you can achieve savings. And in video 4 I'm going to be showing you some specific case studies, but don't jump forward. Honestly, it's worth watching the next 2 videos just as I really deep dive into the process. So As I mentioned, the earlier you introduce the concept or the alternative, the greater the impact, with the lower or negligible potential knock-on impact of introducing that change. And it's really achievable. I mean, I would say on average, when I engage a client in a value engineering process, we save between 20 to 30%. So that's a typical saving. I'm going to show you a case study later on where we saved almost 50% of the original tender figure in terms of the value engineering and delivered incredible value to everyone concerned. But 30% is a really typical achievable saving. So your role in all of this, you're going to take a proactive role. When I teach you the techniques in video 3 and 4 in providing direction and leadership to the value engineering process, but also in ensuring that the time and effort is not wasted and doesn't have a detrimental effect on the progress of the project. So you're the person who's going to sense check all of this, and I'm going to talk later on about the whole concept of the 80-20 principle. What do you look to value engineer? Well, you look to value engineer the big ticket items. You identify the 20% of items that hold 80% of the cost or potential time impact or maintenance costs, and you drill in on those. And then after that, if you still need to achieve further savings, you go looking for other items. But the key is to save the client money, develop the relationship with the team, and increase your bottom line. So it's important that you really engage in an inclusive process. The last thing you want to do is alienate any, in particular of the design team, where they might feel threatened, undermined, or that you're trying to dilute their design. That is absolutely not the point of this process. The point of it is just to deliver, as I've mentioned, this massive value to the client and position you as a contractor of choice for your client and their team. And the 2 case studies that I'm going to show you in video 4 will specifically show how the projects that were engaged on at that time allowed the contractors that I managed and mentored develop long-term lasting relationships with those clients where they negotiated further projects. One of the core elements of value engineering is that you understand and define each party's objectives. So all of the parties that interact in a construction contract or ultimately use it have got very differing objectives, and in an ideal world you're going to give something to everybody through this process. So what is your objective? Let's be honest, your objective is to give that building to the client with the lowest cost to obtain, with the lowest construction cost in order to obtain the highest profit. And this process will absolutely, beyond and over and above any other process, allow you to achieve that objective. The owner wants to get the biggest income from the building, so obviously the lower the cost of the building, the higher the yield that the employer is going to make. The user wants to be able to perform his works easily and get the highest level of use or enjoyment out of the building. That's ultimately what they want. And again, if you think about a hotel operator, they want to get their specification to the required standard, and you've got a massive opportunity to work with them, finding alternatives, locally available materials, different construction methods to give them the quality that they want and allow the employer make his required yield out of the project. And finally, the designer just wants more importance to his creations, aesthetics and functions. And I'm going to show you a very specific case study in video 4 where we had a really unique project, a Formula 1 project for the Abu Dhabi royal family in Abu Dhabi, where quality and design intent were crucial not only to the client but to the architect, and we achieved massive savings, increased our profit margin exponentially by following the process I'm going to teach you. So value engineering is really concerned about maximizing value, and I really want to stress that it's about maximizing value for all of the stakeholders that I've just outlined, not just reducing costs. It's seeking optimum solutions to remove unnecessary waste, reduce life cycle costs while improving functionality, quality and sustainability for that building. And done properly, it is absolutely in every shape and form going to eliminate that unnecessary waste, which might include cost. The most obvious one is going to be cost. You're going to seek to reduce cost. You're going to seek to do it by looking at alternative materials, alternative resources, different systems for energy, the consumption of water, which can be a massive impact in some areas. I do a lot of work in Africa where the number one question you ask in a lot of cases is, where are we going to get water? You can significantly reduce time through the value engineering process, through availability of materials, through construction methodology, the plant that you use, the lead-in times, transportation, maintenance, maintenance, replacement and disposal activities. There's an almost infinite array of options for you to consider and engage the design team with when looking to value engineer a project. So in the next video, I'm going to really get gritty down into the process of how you value engineer a project and how you add that massive value to your client. Look forward to seeing you there on video 3.